Hello, friends, and welcome to Rise Up in Real Estate, where we are on a quest. We are looking for the extra in the ordinary. And I'm Tad Fulford, and I will be your host on this journey where we will take an honest look at what makes ordinary people extraordinary. Exactly how can we be extra in our personal and our professional lives? In this season of the Rise Up in Real Estate adventure, there will be a monthly rhythm, meaning each month we will have 4 unique episodes. In one episode, we'll tackle a pressing current real estate industry thought. In another, we will chat with a local difference maker in the real estate space. For our 3rd episode, we will host a respected national thought leader. And finally, we will have a 4th bonus and surprise episode. And in each episode, we will be digging into not only what those people think, but who those people are. Along the way, it's my hope that you'll laugh some, you'll be challenged some, you will get inspired some, and if we are lucky, maybe even figure out a way or two you can rise up in your own life and be the best human that you can be. So the challenge is, let's all rise up. Hey, Rise Up Nation, welcome back for another edition of Rise Up in Real Estate. I'm excited to have you guys here on the show today. I've got a really good friend of mine, a colleague, another RE/MAX broker owner. It's not a RE/MAX commercial, you guys know that, but he's a broker owner in sunny Florida. I wanted to introduce you to my good friend, David Serle. David, thanks for being here today. We appreciate your time.
Listen, it's really a pleasure, and I appreciate all that you're doing and you continue to do, and I love being here. So thank you.
Yes, great. I appreciate you. I want you to, because David and I are colleagues. Like we run across each other at conventions, and we'll see each other on social media. But we're not like best buddies yet. We've known each other for years, though, right, David? How long have you been a broker? How long have you been a broker owner down there?
So. I got in the real estate business in 1998 through the title company, 2002 as an agent, and 2007 as a broker owner.
Okay, cool. And is it you've been in Florida that whole time? Where were you born, David? It doesn't sound like Florida.
Yeah, believe it or not, I am one of the few and far between. I'm the unicorn. I am actually the unicorn because I was born in Florida. I was born in South Florida. Mostly grew up in Boca Raton since I was 4 years old.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. So that's similar to my wife. Mandy was born, the office that I'm in right now, she was born about 10 minutes from here. So we talk about that all the time. They say there are 8 unicorns in our county, and we're trying to find them, the ones that are actually born from here. So down there, you're the only one. That's pretty cool.
I'm the only one. I think, I guess my kids are, but my age, very few and far between.
That's awesome. Tell us where you are in South Florida. Give us a little relation. We're in coastal South Carolina, so we'll like that.
Absolutely. So I'm in Boca Raton, Florida. It is in between Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach. So about 25, 30 minutes from Fort Lauderdale, about 25, 30 minutes from West Palm Beach, about 50 to 60 minutes from Miami. And it is along the East Coast. It is known for its parks and beaches, and probably has the best schools as far as public school system in the county.
That's amazing. So that's, even for us we live in the coastal South Carolina. So we're beach people, and to hear there's only a few places we would rather be, because we love it here, but you might live in one of those places. That's pretty cool.
It's crazy if you think about it's a very affluent area,
right?
Majority. To give you an example, in July, single family home sales, if you look at the average sale price, was over $1 million. So, the median sale price was in the 6.25 range, 650, and that's for the entire county of 1.6 million people. So, you're talking, pretty decent household gross income.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that'll really some of my listeners might have just hung up the phone. They're like, I'm done with this guy.
But just so you know, there's anywhere from like $25,000 condos all the way up to the craziness.
Yeah, so that's similar to what we are. That's very relatable. Have you so you're born down there in Florida. Have you always been in real estate, or did you do other stuff?
So I was actually, as crazy as it sounds. So I was in the restaurant business, right? And I love the restaurant business. I worked for a number of brands, but the one that kind of is somewhat memorable is California Pizza Kitchen. I was on their opening training team, and we would travel to different places. We traveled to New York and Naples and Scottsdale and all these, and you would train these agents, and agents. You see, I go back to agents,
Yeah.
but you would train the waiters and servers, and back then it was more of a kind of a science. We would go ahead and we would learn about the ingredients of all the salads and everything on the menu, and where they came from, and there was a story to it. So when we came up to the table and people were asking, "Hey, what's the deal?" we could, articulate, "Hey, jicama is in the salad, and have you heard where jicama's from?" Kind of thing. So it gave me a very good background and fundamental background to real estate. Quite honestly, I was able to navigate and be able to prioritize things, certainly like a server would, and it gave me the gift of quote unquote gab.
Yeah, I could see how you were good at that. And you were doing that when you were in your 20s?
Yeah, I mean, from probably like 16, 17 on up. Yeah. I mean, my first job was in the restaurant business after this part-time job, but my first, decent job was a busboy as a restaurant.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that does, we interview a lot of people that want to be agents here. And when I meet somebody that's either a teacher or
Mm-hmm.
a server, a good server in a good restaurant, you stop and say, okay, you probably got a lot of what it takes to be very good at what we do,
Very
because
much so.
the people
I mean,
skills you learn.
the skill sets are really the same. You're prioritizing which, this person, this table needs water and they haven't been greeted yet, and these people need their food. And which one do you do? Because you're going to get, you're going to make someone mad. So who do you make mad first?
It sounds like the client. That sounds like very much like
Yeah,
what you do with your clients. And so when did you said you have some children. How many kids do you have?
I got three girls.
Three girl. How old are they, David?
So they're 18, 14, and 11. And the way I describe them, and I'll do the PG version of it. The 18-year-old is going to rule the world one day. She got into UFFSU. She's going to FSU this year. She's National Honor Society, just driven, really just kind of crushing the world, and she's very good. So she's going to rule the world one day, right?
Right,
My
right.
middle one loves unicorns and puppies, and she's my little hippie kind of girl, and she's going to save the world one day. And my youngest one is going to burn the whole thing down. And I got that from a friend of mine who also has three girls, and we literally have three very similar personalities.
That is crazy. You know what? Ironically, I have three girls also, but I have three boys too. But my three
Yeah.
girls, I could describe the same way. I mean, but not necessarily in the same order. My middle one is the one that's going to burn it down. But that's funny. That's really funny. I like the way that you described that. When did you? So you were just clicking along in the restaurant business when you back in 1998 or 9? You said you got into to become a realtor. What changed? Like, why did you decide to make the switch?
So in 98, I decided that, or really 96, 97, I decided that, I wasn't really going anywhere. I was, a waiter going out till 2, 3 in the morning, hanging around, people that, I probably shouldn't be hanging out with. And so in 1998, I made the decision. I said, you know what? I'm going to have to work for my father's title company. So I asked him, and my dad said, absolutely not. Because he saw me, right? Here I am coming in at 3, 4 in the morning. I'm partying. I'm doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And my dad's like, listen, I love you, but you ain't working for me. And so I begged him and begged him. And finally he gave me an opportunity. which was like, I think it was $360 a week. And that was even, before any taxes were taken out. So, I was doing grunt work, getting them coffee, getting the title company coffee, all that kind of stuff. Then I kind of worked my way up, processor, closer, and I saw, realtors coming in and not. My biggest surprise to the real estate business was that when I would deal with the realtors, they didn't know much. Like they were like they weren't educated on the title. They weren't educated on closings. And I felt like there was a need that I could serve. And so I did that. So I became an agent, but then I started training the agents, my existing agents. And I didn't have any agents. I was just a regular agent at the time, but I started training them. I started training them on search engine optimization, became a certified trainer, and so there was learning and growth that came along that really just helped me propel myself into the position I'm in now. But it was always, people say like, hey, why'd you get in the real estate business? And everyone says, oh, I want to help people. Really? That was that was exactly what I did. And, I didn't just say that I was going to help people or whatever. And I wasn't just helping people buy and sell homes. I was helping other agents in 2002, which was unheard of because we were a cutthroat, competitive business, a lot different than what it is today. And, I was helping those people be successful with no monetary and no reward other than they were appreciative.
That's pretty cool. That's that's parallel to Mandy's story. Except she bought her brokerage or bought her franchise, and then she just started teaching the tools to people. She started learning them, and she felt like people would like them if they would know about them, other realtors, and so that's what she did. So that's very similar. That shows that you are a giver, but I love the way you put it. Realtors would come into the title company, they just didn't know anything.
They really didn't. I mean, they couldn't read at that time. It was, it was still called a HUD. They couldn't read a HUD, and I'm like, what do you mean? They couldn't grasp, a simple concept of, and not because they were unintelligent. They were just, no one ever told them. No one ever showed them. No one ever told them or communicated the value of why it's important to know what a credit and a debit is on the borrower and seller side, right? So, you have to add value. If you want to be a professional, you absolutely need to know everything about a real estate transaction. Even though you can go to professionals, you need to have some degree of knowledge on that.
Yeah, that's really good. I've got to ask you this little tangent before we dive back in.
Sure.
Because I know you have a daughter that just went to FSU, right, this year. She's a freshman at Florida State.
She is.
And you're a little bit of an Alabama fan. How did you become is that where you went to college? How did you become an Alabama fan?
I did. I went to University of Alabama. Okay. I had a lot of fun, and I came back and I got sucked into the real estate business. If that's really kind of the path that went that way. Yeah.
So that's hard for a parent, an SEC parent, to have their kid go to an ACC school. Although so many things are changing. It's awful. Now.
I'm like, don't do it. I mean, we did tours. So luckily my daughter had choices, right? She had a choice between University of Florida, she got in, FSU, she got in, and UCF. And those were the only three schools that she applied for. And I really wanted her to go to UF. I wanted her to go to UF because, I felt like it was a business school. It's, it's one of the top schools in the nation and such. But when we drilled down to it, I didn't do the work. Right. She did the work. And if she does the work and she puts her in that position, who am I to tell her that she can't choose where she wants to go? So I wanted to make sure that she knew the pros and cons of everything and let her make that decision. And she made a very calculated decision. We met, we went twice to FSU and UF, and she said, listen, Dad, I'm going to be more comfortable there. I said, absolutely. I'm impressed by the way you made your decision, and I support you 100%. So yes, I do wear the FSU dad shirt and hat.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're making quite a statement here at the beginning of the season, so we'll see.
I'll
See
tell
what
you,
happens.
it's not a bad year to be an FSU
No,
fan.
so far, we'll see how it
Right.
goes. But
True.
so it's interesting to me, David, like to hear your backstory. What I know of you really dovetails from all of that. Like right now, I know you. Like tell me about your podcast. You're still very involved in education, right? Teaching and
I am.
giving. So tell me all
I
the things
am.
that you do. You've got a long resume, but talk to me a little bit about your involvement in different things.
So, one of the things that when I got into the business in '02 and then a broker owner in '07, no one really educated me and informed me of the benefits of like why you would be involved in let's say a local association or local MLS, local realtors association as a realtor. And so I really didn't get involved other than being in some, user group capacity and things that I was doing. So it took me until 2017 when an email came by and said, "Hey, you want to apply for a leadership academy?" And I did. So I applied for a leadership academy. I've served on many committees, and now this year I'm the president-elect of the Broward, Palm Beaches, and St. Lucie Realtors, which is the third largest in the country. There's 42,000 members within
Wow.
and NAR director, and I work on NAR committees and stuff like that. But it's giving back, educating, constantly advocating for private property owners' rights, and really going after some of the legislators and saying, "Hey, we don't want rent control. We want to talk about, why rent control is not the best thing. We want to talk about why clean water is important. Bipartisan issues. These aren't like partisan issues. These are bipartisan issues." Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so affordable housing obviously is a big topic today, because of higher interest rates and such. We were very big, and I certainly was a part of coming up with the Hometown Heroes program, in the state of Florida. So, you're talking about a lot of things that were really helpful in the community. And I love giving back. I know you
Yeah.
mentioned the podcast. That was, my way of, really just giving back to more people, I guess, because I was always give back to the agents, but I wanted to support the real estate industry. And so I came up with Breakfast with the Broker, and it's a well, at the time it was a Facebook Live interview show, and everyone needs a stick, right? So my bright idea, I always loved watching the basketball players come up and do these secret handshakes, or these baseball players doing these secret handshakes. I'm like, that's cool. I want to do that. So every guest would have a secret handshake. So we'd come up with the secret handshake, we'd do it. And then COVID hit. And then you can't do handshakes at all. Like, it's like, so we as the COVID term, because we never used it prior to COVID, we pivoted and we moved on to intros and some of the other things that we do. But some great guests, some amazing giving back, and we certainly appreciate all the podcasts. If people want to watch it, it's on all your podcast stuff. It's Breakfast with the Broker.
Yeah, cool. I want to put a link to that in the show notes
It.
and drive some people to that, because I've watched some of those episodes, and you should do like a unique fist bump now, like figure out how. But there's only so many ways you can bump your fist together.
I know.
I guess, but,
we were doing belly bumps and all kinds of stuff.
That's interesting, and so it is a pattern of. I really respect that. It's a pattern of giving back for you, and you're still doing it. I don't know this about you. How many agents do you have about in your brokerage?
We have about 54.
Okay.
Agents.
And are you listing and selling as well?
Yep.
How in the world do you have time for all of that? Like tell me about your time priority. How do you do it all? If you live or own property along the coast of South Carolina, you probably need insurance. We Insure Advocates is a locally owned independent agency with industry-leading service support. Our team of customer-centric agents can explain your coverage options and help you craft an insurance program that fits your needs and budget. Data-driven for better value, people-led for better service. That's the difference of we. For all of your property insurance needs, please find us at weinsureadvocates.com or call us at 843-491-6990.
Yeah, it's funny because I was never a big person of, putting together your time and your calendars, and I was always like a little disorganized. But when you have so many things that are going on, coaching soccer, being part of, at the time I was board of directors of JCC, then being involved in the Realtors Association, listing and selling, being a father of three girls, all that stuff. You have to make sure that you are, there's no such thing as managing time, but effectively using your time. And so I put a calendar, everything goes on my calendar. If it's not on the calendar, I don't know it exists, and I'm not going to show up to it. So I am very big in, down to, my breakfast, all my lunch meetings, everything that I could possibly put on my calendar to remind me of things, when to pack, when to unpack, I put on my calendar. And it's a very important task that I prioritize to make sure that I'm in, the worst thing, at least for me, is to disappoint people, right? When I disappoint people, it eats at me, entirely, just eats at me. So, not making something or being late for something would just eat at me. So I make sure that I am a calendar centric person.
That's pretty cool. And it wasn't your nature to do that. So you kind of had to make yourself be that guy. The more things you committed to, the more you had to change that way of being for you. That, because I remember, if I'm not thinking about somebody different, David, I remember it was just a few weeks ago. It seemed like you had a whirlwind of trips, like one right after the next. Like you just
Crazy.
got in, you could barely change your clothes, and you went to the next flight. What was that? Tell me where you were. I can't remember. Was it Chicago?
So Saturday I was out in Miami at an event. I got back at 3 a.m. And then on Sunday, I had a flight, I think around 10 or 11 in the morning. And then that was to Chicago for the Leadership Summit at NAR. And NAR has been in the news a little bit. So that was a very interesting conference. And so we got back on Wednesday. And on Thursday, I had to bring my daughter up to FSU, move her in on Friday, go back to Orlando on Friday, and then came home ultimately on Sunday night. So it was a long week.
That's a lot. If you don't have that on your calendar, you're going to miss something. It's probably going to be something. Somebody else had to drop your daughter off at school or whatever.
You're right. Well, the interesting thing is that people don't realize how they can use the calendar. You don't have to have trips to be using a calendar or effectively use a calendar. You could basically, if you think that something's important, let's say, walking or exercising is important, put it down on your calendar. If you think that, meditating is important, put it down on your calendar. If you think, it could be anything. It could be picking up your kids, eating lunch when you want to eat a lunch, because then you become accountable, not just, to yourself, but if you share that calendar to someone who may be your accountability partner, it could be your spouse, your significant other, your work staff, whatever it might be, it'll help you achieve those results. Because, when we make all these resolutions, at the end of the year or the beginning of the next year, many of us don't achieve them. And they don't achieve them because we're not reminded every day how to achieve them. And I think it's very important to be, whatever way it works for you. It works for me to be accountable to others. So that's why it's on my calendar.
Then you share your calendar with a few people, and you don't like to let people down. So that's accountability.
It is. It's my own version of accountability. It's funny. We have a consult class, and we kind of came up with this through like a Darren Hardy, a Michael Maher, a bunch of other people. But and one of the things we ask is, who do you hate? Like the first session, we say, who do you hate? Tad, who do you hate? And we've gotten anything from like the Trump campaign, the Democratic campaign, the ex-wife, ex-husband, ex-partner, whatever. We've had all kinds of things, right? And I said, well, would you hate if you had to give them money? Like if you had to write a check and send them money, would that be a problem for you? And they all are like, oh yeah. I said, well, and for the next 12 weeks, if you don't graduate, every action item that you miss, we're going to use a dollar amount, and you're going to give that money every time that you miss it. And it's going to go into my little kitty. And if you don't complete your 12 weeks, I'm going to send it to your ex-wife, ex-husband, ex-partner, whatever it might be. And I'm going to post it on social media and let you know that this is what happened. To this date, I haven't had to do that once.
Right. I was going to say that's real accountability. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I can feel it.
Yeah.
All right. So I asked this question of all my guests. I've got 3 or 4 questions I like to ask everybody just to get, and there's no right or wrong answers. It's just 100% opinion, and nobody's going to hold you to it, I hope. But where do you see, we all know what the market is doing. I mean, typically it's low inventory, not much selling, 20, 30% off of what previous year or whatever. If you had a crystal ball, what would it say is coming next, in your opinion? You're a very well-connected guy. What are you hearing out there that can help us maybe?
Well, I think it's a very opportunistic market, right? So we have a lot of pressures on the real estate community. And, we have interest rates, going higher. We have a lot of transaction sides. You have a lot of realtors that are having problems in closing transactions. So you have all this, but what people aren't looking at, because they always look at it like, it's like who moved my cheese, right? This is that who moved my cheese moment, and what you do with it is extremely important, especially the next steps. There's a thing called AI. AI is extremely important right now. We had Jonathan Lickstein, who is the CEO of Location, do a class for us this morning on ChatGPT, which is powered by AI. And, one of the things he said is the statistics are crazy, right? It's the fastest to 100 million users, all these different crazy stats. But did you know that only 12.6% of those 100 million users were in the United States? So we want to be early adopters of that. So if you want opportunity, look for opportunity, be prepared for opportunity, and don't just say who moved my cheese and wait for the market to go back to what it was 2-3 years ago. Because news is it's not ever going to be like that, right. At least in a very long time. So, that was an anomaly. I mean, look at the 100 years of real estate. Those last 3 years was an anomaly. That doesn't mean you can't make significantly more money or you can't close significantly more transactions than you have the last 3 years. It just means that market is a different animal. And so what's this market going to look like going forward? It's going to be a relatively balanced market. We have very low inventory, which is really kind of shocking, right? You don't typically have lower demand and lower inventory. And that's what we're dealing with. I could speak, for like Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County has about 1.6 to 1.7 residents. And single family homes are about 2.9 months of inventory. Condos are around 4.2, 4.3 months of inventory. And to give people some kind of, perspective, a 5.5 months of inventory is basically a balanced market, give or take. 6 months of inventory is quote unquote the buyer's market. 5 months and under are really is quote unquote the seller's market, even though I don't like labeling it. To give you an understanding of where that market goes, well, in 2008, our inventory was 14 and a half months of inventory. 14 and a half months. We're at 2.9. It's going to be a very far way. This is not 2008. People like to keep saying, hey, the bubble is going to crash. And you know what? There may be some degree of corrections. There may be but there has to be something that would be catastrophic, that would really force the pressures on the pricing to get so out of whack that there would be 6 times as much inventory as we have right now.
Yeah, that's pretty eye-opening. So I like opportunistic market. If you choose to seize the day or seize the market, you can. I mean, you did like we did. I didn't realize we opened our brokerage in 2007. So
our brokerage was 98, only because my dad owned it at the time. So I became the broker owner in 07.
And that's 7, 8, 9, 10. I just was talking to someone about it this morning. That was very constricted, but we grew because we seized the moment. Like we had a lot of energy, we had a lot of ideas, we weren't burned out. We were just getting in. So I love the opportunistic idea. Tell me, David, what if you had to describe yourself, and almost everybody hates this question, but what's your superpower other than you can juggle everything? That's clear. What's your superpower? What do you put here to do, you think?
My superpower would probably be empathy, quite honestly.
Okay.
I have a very keen sense of being able to see both sides of a story, both sides of an argument, even though when I'm vehemently opposed to one argument or not. I think I think along with empathy comes open-mindedness, some degree of flexibility, so that, not that you're influenced by everyone, but that you're listening to everyone so you can make an informed decision. And so I feel, sometimes empathy can, your superpower just like that, you could find kryptonite, right? And empathy sometimes comes along with some kryptonite because sometimes you're waffling, right? A little bit. Maybe it makes you not decide as quickly as maybe you should. But empathy itself, I think, is so important in this day and age where people are hurting, people are struggling. Not everyone's going to be in the same position. People are thriving, people are successful. And it's just how you navigate those obstacles and challenges going forward to really be successful in whatever defines success in your mind.
Yeah, I like that. And empathy is a good one to have in parenting, in being a broker owner, and being on the association leadership, being an agent in the car with a buyer or seller in their living room. If you have empathy, you can do all those things.
Agreed.
I like that. That's a great answer. Okay, tell me a good book. I'm gonna put it in the show notes, obviously, but what's a good one that's made a difference? It doesn't have to be business related either. It could be whatever.
So, I mean, I know you've probably read this too, but the book that kind of changed my thought process, honestly, is The Thank You Economy by Gary Vaynerchuk.
Love that.
And we were introduced to that at R4, and like it just resonated with me. And that book was basically, because we were all saying, oh, your father's generation is better. Social media is ruining everything, and da 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 da. And the days of walking into the Cheers bar and everyone knowing your name is gone. And that's not the case, really. It's just the way it's being delivered and the way that it's being communicated has changed. And so it really got me thinking. It got me to start with those Buffini, thank you cards and the just a no cards. It got me thinking about gifts that would resonate with my specific customers, or little things that really were specific. But then it also got me hyper-focused and specific to my area, meaning now I got to go local, but, we call it hyper-local, right? Like, well, I need to go hyper-local with my events and online social media and things of that nature, which is really, people don't realize that the mistake most realtors make is they try and cast a wider net than everyone else. And that's the wrong way to do business. Because when you're trying to cast a wider net, you're competing with everyone. Why not try and cast a very, very little small net that is local, that is niche, and put that online? Because people don't realize that just because you're doing something online doesn't mean you got to be, South Carolina real estate, right? You could be coastal Carolina real estate. You could be, a subdivision within the coastal Carolina real estate. It's got to be very, very specific, because imagine this: when you go online and you're typing in, golf shoes, and you really want Nike golf shoes, and 17 other brands come up and sneakers come up. Well, I got to go off that site. But then you find the Nike golf shoe site, and you're like, I'm home. And that's what it's like in real estate. And I think that too many people and too many realtors try and cast that wide net, and they shouldn't.
I love that. I just thought of, and this will be a video because I do a lot of videos. I'll use that in videos. You don't need to cast a wide net. You need to cast your net.
Yes.
Like make it the net. The net needs to be specific to an area or to what your strengths are, your niche. I like that word. That's excellent. We're just at about 30 minutes. I can't believe it goes like that. When you're, take this the right way, but you're way smarter than I thought you are, David. No, you've brought a lot of value. I want to ask you one last question. And I hope, I want to remind everybody that the purpose of this podcast is to connect people. Like, I really hope that somebody listening will reach out to you through social media, and I'll have all of his handles and stuff in the show notes, but that it'll increase your network. I mean, that's what this whole thing's about, right? Is helping each other. And you're a living example of that. You have been since the way back days of the California Pizza Kitchen. But tell me, is there something that you do? The name of this show is Rise Up in Real Estate. And my idea was, what can we do to rise above the mediocrity on a daily basis? Because there's a lot of it. What do you do every day if there is something that helps you rise up?
That's a great question. I think you got to be true to yourself. And so when you're thinking about like what you're doing every day, and being consistent is, first, obviously you're waking up, right? And that's rising up, because not everyone wakes up, so you're talking about that. And then what are you doing differently every day? I think the things that I do differently are I try and make and connect with 10 new people every day, people that I haven't met. So, sometimes I make it, sometimes I don't, but I try and connect with 10 new people, even whether they're realtors, whether they're colleagues, whether they're, buyers, sellers, consumers, whatever they may be. Because the more you connect with people and the more people you connect with, the more people you put in your database, the more people you can give value, the more business you will receive. So, it's not necessarily a give or take. To me, it's like you said, I want to be a connector, someone who connects people, someone who builds relationships, someone who props up, someone who rises up, and not just rises up for you, but I want other people to rise up and help people rise up. So I certainly appreciate what you're doing, and I love it, and all the advice over the years. I appreciate our conversations.
No, it's been great. So you tell me, spell your name for me, and then tell the listeners what's the best way. If you had one way, what's the best way to connect with you?
Sure. My last name is Serle, so it's S as in Sam, E-R-L-E, L as in Larry, E, so S-E-R-L-E. And the best way to get in touch with me is podcast at Breakfast with the Broker. It's on Acast, Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify, all the podcasts that you want. Or you could just Google my name, and certainly it'll come up as well. So, it's something fun that I do, but it's also something that I think is valuable to the listeners as well.
No, I love
just
that.
Like
I appreciate that. And I've enjoyed our time together. I know there's a ton. You just told it. You've gotten. I could make 7 or 8 new videos. I appreciate that. I'm going to steal a lot of it. But here's to much prosperity for you, much blessing. Thank you for leading in the way that you do. And I just hope that you're given. I know when you give, you get. So my prayer for you the rest of this year, next year, is that you get exactly what you want, David. I appreciate you very much.
I appreciate it. Tad, thank you. And say hi to Mandy for me. And I certainly appreciate you and what you do for our real estate industry. Thank you.
Well, hey, that's a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for listening to Rise Up in Real Estate. If you liked hanging out with us today, please find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Rise Up in Real Estate. Also, follow us right now on your favorite podcast host to hear more episodes. We really appreciate you spending some of your time with us. And until next time, let's do each other a favor and all help each other rise up.